One of the most impressive things that we've seen the entire day, I have to say, are these two vehicles right here.
We're not trying to be the next Waymo. Where we are trying to operate is in this very kind of austere and challenging environments where our warfighters have to operate.
Let's simplify it down for the common person.
So the LiDAR it's basically like a radar, but with light, right? So it's bouncing off and it's getting a very precise amount of resolution on the different objects out there. Really, the sky's the limit, and really the limit is your imagination as to what you want to use this platform for.
So we're wrapping up the first day of an incredible day here at Tantan, Morocco, African Lion. One of the most impressive things that we've seen the entire day, I have to say, are these two vehicles right here. I thought these things were just the coolest. We saw them driving around and actively live firing at targets. It was incredible. They're showcased right here as the Secretary of the Army came down, gave a talk, came back. This was the background for his talk. Now, these are manufactured in the United States, in Washington, as part of a DARPA program. This is the ultimate success on innovation, investment by the government for moonshot technologies to be deployed and fielded. I could not be more excited to see this kind of capability out here in the field. And the fact that our soldiers are embracing this and integrating it in to their overall mission. You can see them talking about this in each of their different stations as these autonomous vehicles are driving around back and forth, carrying out the simulated mission here in African Lion. So, once again, one of the most impressive pieces of this event here, 2026 African Lion, Tantan, Morocco. So tell us a little bit about what we're looking at here.
So this is Ultra. This is our fully integrated off-road autonomous vehicle for tactical missions like this. It is powered by our Autonomy stack, which we call Overdrive. This all spun out of a DARPA program called Razor.
Which DARPA office was it out of?
TTO.
TTO.
Yeah. So that program started up in about 2021. I was a part of a team at the University of Washington that was developing the technology on that. We had a lot of success in that program, and so we spun out this company, Overland. So that was focused on the Autonomy stack, so the software that runs it. As we were, starting to try to field this system, we realized that there were not vehicles that were out there that were appropriate to get our technology out. So then we built this vehicle. It's based on a Polaris Razor chassis, which we then, strip out the passenger compartment, integrate the sensors and compute, get our software in there, and then it's good to go.
So I was walking around a little bit. One of the things that caught my eye is you had a rifle right on top, right?
Yes.
Underneath the rifle, talk a little bit about what all that instrumentation is.
Yeah, so we built the base vehicle here, and so we can walk over here and take a look. We built basically up to here. So this is the payload deck on the Ultra. It's designed to rapidly integrate any payload that you might want to put on. So you see there's another vehicle over there with different payloads. This is a CROWS system. This is a program of record remote weapon station that the military uses, right? And so it had the weapon on it. So we are the truck that gets this CROWS to the point where it needs to be, and we have the comms backhaul so that that the operators can use the remote weapon station. On the other one over there, we have another payload system that we designed. This is a terrain shaping obstacle in here. It's called an XM204. This is a pneumatic system that can go out and lay these out there to create terrain shaping obstacles.
When you say terrain shaping,
yeah,
are these basically things that go boom? Are they munitions? What is?
The XM204 is an anti-tank mine.
How many of these are showcased here at African Lion?
Just these two. We brought the two vehicles for this exercise.
And the intent of these vehicles is that payloads on top can be interchanged depending on the mission threat or the environment, whatever the soldiers need, you can change the top of
Yeah,
it.
that's correct. People have used these for lots of different kinds of missions. So ISR, so going out to put a sensor to look around or to capture or to collect some EW, electronic electronic warfare information. You can use it for terrain shaping as this one is set up. You can use it for last mile resupply. You can use it for communications relay if you want to integrate some sort of comms package on it. You know, we have the Starlink and the MPU-5 radio back there. You can integrate all sorts of different things. It's designed to do that very quickly in the field to fit sort of whatever mission that the operator might want to use it for.
And now list off a couple of the threats that this is immediately eliminating, now having something like this that is usable by the United States.
Yeah, so this is built on a commercial Razor chassis, and the reason that we do that is to drive the cost down. The idea is that this can go out into areas where it would be very dangerous to send people. So going into a breach where it's a minefield or something like that, these are not expendable, but close to it, certainly much more expendable than a person. And so the idea is this can accomplish a mission that would otherwise require a person to be out in harm's way.
This is incredible. Hey, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Overland AI, we are a ground autonomy company. So what we do is both hardware and software solutions for ground autonomy, specifically off-road ground autonomy, right? So we're not trying to be the next Waymo. Where we are trying to operate is in this very kind of austere and challenging environments where our warfighters have to operate. We're about a 3-year-old company. We were spun out of University of Washington Robotics Lab, did some work with DARPA, and now have kind of brought our tech into kind of the Department of War and the Department of Defense more broadly. So we have a few different solutions. What I'm going to talk about here is Ultra. So Ultra is our fully robotic and autonomous ground vehicle that we have kind of rebuilt from the ground up. This is built off a Polaris Razor chassis, so the same one you can get on a Polaris Rot, so purely commercial off the shelf. We do some enhancements to the suspension, you know, better tires, and then everything else we do is to make this vehicle autonomous. And so we do that through a variety of things. We have sensors, cameras, and LiDARs on the front and the back, and a variety of other sensors, so GNSS receivers, IMUs, wheel encoders, built into the system itself. And then we have onboard compute that pulls in all of that data, processes it, builds a map of what the vehicle sees around it, so it builds its own map of the environment, basically calculates a few thousand different routes per second, and then decides what's the best route to take to its objective. This system is designed to be able to perform in GPS denied or RF jam type environments. Everything the system needs to work is on board the system itself, so you don't need a constant contact or communications link with the system for it to operate. Additionally to that, the design is so that we can incorporate a variety of different payloads. So the way to think about this is the all-in-one bus that gets your effector to the fight wherever you need it to be. This is an engineer variant that we've built, and so we have kind of two parts to this. What we have in the bay is a terrain shaping part that will drop XM204 top attack mines, up to 4 of them, right? So you could deep terrain shape. This was built in combination with AAL, so terrain shape far out in front without risking soldiers in that mission. And then on top here, which we'll be demoing tomorrow at the counterattack lane, are going to be 2 APOBS. So you have the ability to do a fully autonomous unmanned breach with this vehicle as well. So in addition to this, we can fit the same core autonomy stack on a variety of different vehicles. You saw the M-Razor drive by earlier. We're doing the M-Razor, ISV, JLTV. We've done some of the Textron platforms that were part of the original RCV challenge, and commercial vehicles as well. Same core autonomy stack, tailored slightly to the specifics of the platform. And then, you know, we provide our own kind of autonomy stack and C2 system that can be integrated with any other C2 systems that are currently in use by the military right now. We're on contract with the Army and the Marine Corps and SOCOM, and so are kind of shifting out of that RTD&E and into that actual kind of procurement type work right now. And so we're out here really to support 173rd and 7th Eng. We started supporting them last year at Agile Spirit in Georgia, and so I've continued that relationship ever since. We have another one that has a CROW system on it, so almost like a maneuverable support by fire is a good way to think about that. We've put counter-UAS systems on it, so kinetic and non-kinetic. So things like the ACS Bullfrog, Drone Sentry Drone Shield. We also have variants that are ISR, so it could launch drones or have cameras built into the system that you can extend, move around. You can pull feeds directly off the cameras as well. Those are not maneuverable though, right? So we can have a camera built that you could pan and zoom like that.
Let's simplify it down for the common person.
Yeah.
When we're looking at this right here,
this right here, I'm assuming, is sensors
Yes.
being able to send and receive what information they're seeing in the terrain. Correct?
Exactly, right. So the LiDAR is bouncing off like, it's basically like a radar but with light, right? So it's bouncing off and it's getting a very precise amount of resolution on the different objects out there. And then these are just regular cameras, right? So they're passive. They're just taking in what is being seen out there.
These guys right here.
Yeah, exactly, right. These three are just cameras right here. Yeah.
Now up here.
So yeah, GNSS receiver, right?
Okay.
And then you have wheel encoders on the systems and things like that. And so those are all kind of helping with wheel speed, position, almost like the pitch and roll of the vehicle itself, things like that.
Okay. Now I see almost like antennas that are speared out on top.
Yeah. So right here, these are the carriers for the APOBS. So the APOBS is a dismounted breaching system. It's normally carried in a backpack. So two soldiers run up, backpacks, they put it in front of the front line, they spool it out, they set it up, they run back, and then they fire it, right? That's like incredibly dangerous. Okay. So the goal here is that you can just put this on this vehicle, drive up, immediately fire both of them, and then retrograde the vehicle, right? So no soldiers are going to be in the breach then.
Awesome. Okay, so right here, this looks like a moving piece, like like some kind of track.
Exactly. Yeah. So this is a sort of a resupply and terrain shaping variant that we built. And so right now, what this will be used by, was used yesterday, was to drop XM204 top attack mines, so anti-tank mines. So this can hold 4 of them, so you can drive it out, hit a button, these will extend, we'll drop the mine, place it on the ground. On your C2 system, on your laptop, it'll put a pinpoint of exactly where that mine is, and then you can go off and drop more.
Okay, so you got a bay here.
Yes, exactly,
and then a bay on this side as well.
Yeah, so if we can open these up, you can kind of see, it's just kind of a simple bay here, right? So you could think about doing resupplies here as well, right? You do a speedball type ammunition, food, or anything like that, you can extend it, drop it, soldier can come pick it up later.
Okay, what are these guys up here on top for?
So these are for launching the APOBS. Okay. So how the APOBS works is it has a spool of basically a spool of explosive material that is fit into 2 backpacks, and then it's attached to a rocket up front. So you mount the rocket here, shoots out, and then all of the explosive material carries with it.
Okay, here on the back, now as we make our way,
yep.
More sensors, correct?
Yeah, this is basically a sensor that we use to signify the state of the vehicle. And so red means it's safe to approach, it's stopped, and then green would mean it's like in autonomous mode, right? And so you want to be able to understand what state the system is in so you know you can safely approach it or not.
On top here, this flat panel.
Just Starlink, right? So we have the ability to really use whatever comm systems y'all need, military or commercial. Generally, we come in with some type of SATCOM, often Starlink, some type of radio system, could be a Silvus or an MPU-5 or any tactical mesh network. And then you could also use cellular as well to connect.
And so you were talking about comm system. That's what we're looking at right
Yeah, exactly. So we have a few different radio types here, and then they can help balance out. The SATCOM is particularly helpful when you get beyond line of sight, right? So when you're out of range of the radios.
What's the range for this?
So the range is actually as far as your communication system will take you. We have tasked robots that are in Washington, where our headquarters is, from Germany.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Runs on gasoline, correct?
Yes, yeah, gasoline, unleaded gasoline. It really all depends on the vehicle. So we're working on diesel vehicles as well. Those are run off diesel. There is the ability, there does have a hybrid battery system, and so you can export power if any of the payloads require that. And you can also idle it if you kind of want to turn the engine off, if you're going to cache it somewhere and then turn it back on.
So is there any other functionality piece that we didn't talk about today that you want to really highlight?
I mean, honestly, I think this covers, what a lot of the core functionality is. I mean, I really think the really important piece is the flexibility of this platform, right? So this is just one use case that we put for it. Really, the sky's the limit, and really the limit is your imagination as to what you want to use this platform for.
So basically, anything that has a form factor that someone would want on top can be placed.
That form factor under 1,000 pounds, it can go on top.
Yeah, we saw ammunition being loaded on there as well.
Exactly, yeah. So we had a variant that had a CROW system, which is a military system that allows you to remotely control. In that case, it was a 240 Bravo machine gun, but it can use other weapon systems. And so that would another system where you could send that out. Maybe you want to provide a cover for soldiers that are retreating or maneuvering. And then again, you're not risking life to the soldier, and you're still getting kind of the same effect you would if you sent a squad out there.
So we were looking at a couple of the airborne drones and the such, and they had different ways of bringing them to the field. So
Yeah.
like on a ruck or on a Pelican case.
Yeah.
How does this get out to the field?
Yeah, so very easy. So you could always drive it out yourself, and we have the ability to convoy, right? So you could think of, I'm going to drive, and then I'm going to have 4 of these follow me in a convoy if I want. You can bring them out by plane, so you can belly load them into a C-17 or a C-130. You could sling load them. We're working on getting them air droppable, so you could drop them out of an airplane. But yeah.
Right now, how many are operational?
Yeah, so right now we have kind of a couple of dozen that are sort of out there operational, working directly with units, or embedded with the units directly in exercises like this or at their home station. But we're ramping pretty quickly.
What generation is this?
So this is number 13. So I would say like right now, we're still in kind of the double digits in terms of prototypes. So same basic kind of configuration as kind of our original prototypes. A lot of what we've done internally is just kind of improve the reliability of the system, and then they also kind of release a newer variant of the base Polaris vehicle, so we've adapted to that a little bit as well.
Now, when we were out in the field, we saw 2 of them there, and they both had nicknames. I think it was Mufasa and Simba.
Simba and Mufasa, yeah, those were what the soldiers decided to call them, which is great. I don't remember which one this is, but it's one of the 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, can you describe what's next for you guys, right?
Yeah.
You talked about different variants. You're in the double digits right now.
Yeah.
What are the things that are going on brainstorming wise right now for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think like these are really impressive, even just operating, 1-to-1, right? So one soldier controlling one robot. I think where you really see the competitive advantage come out is when you have the soldier have the ability to control multiple of these robots, right? And they're acting collaboratively, right? And so that's kind of our next step of like how we're working, is getting more of these out to soldiers and allowing them to be able to control multiple sets of robots at the same time, and having those robots kind of collaboratively work together.
So how would that be? Would you just pre-plan your route kind of thing, and you'd say, okay, this one would go here, this one would go here, and you send out basically a swarm of these guys, but on the ground?
Yeah, exactly, right? You could plan and control from a single control station, plan a few different routes, give them some conditions. Okay, when you hit this point, I want you to spread out and go to these areas. Exactly, something like that.
So you're able to set up a perimeter with these guys, and whether it be set, like you said, putting things that explode in the ground, or having some kind of rifle on top, setting that up, it's pulling the human from the danger zone.
Exactly.
Still keeping the human in the loop.
100%, absolutely.
This is incredible.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for the overview.
Of course, absolutely.